I am super, super excited to bring on our next guest. He coached me for basically 90% of my hockey career. And Joe, I think you're pretty similar there. He coached you for a long time as well, growing up all the way into junior. He was the head coach of the Mission City Outlaws for a very long time. And oh, yeah, absolutely. Staple in Mission. And now he's moved on and working with Comox. We are very excited to welcome to the Jungle Hockey Podcast, Mr. Brad Veitch.
How are you, boys?
Great. How are you doing?
Really good. Enjoying the summer.
Good.
Yeah, you getting out a lot or what?
I've been doing some golfing. Other than that, just, yard work, no trips or anything. It's so nice here in the summer that it just doesn't make sense to go anywhere.
That's true.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, I've been golfing a couple times a week. So
are you good? What's your handicap? Are you good?
Yeah, how's your game?
I was you're talking to an old man now, right? So at one point I was good. The hockey really took me away from the golf game for probably about 10, 12 years, right? So I've just started going again. I'm breaking 90 still.
There you go. That's pretty good.
But, I can't hit the ball like I once could.
Oh, okay.
Flexibility's not there and stuff. I actually jarred one from 190 the other day.
Oh, wow.
No longest one. I was playing, we're out at Royalwood, and on 17, I just duffed my drive. I don't know if you know Royalwood 17. It's only about 300 yards.
Yeah, I played it with my dad the other week.
Yeah, so
I drove the green. I shot it over the dog leg there.
Yeah, so I scuffed my drive, worst drive of the day. I hit it about 70 yards. Just worm burner. Then I went up and hit a 4-metal one hop right in the hole.
Ew.
So that was nice. That's the longest I've ever holed one out from. So I
would lose my mind if I did that.
The thing is, I couldn't even see it. Like I'm driving up there. Didn't see it. Nobody in the group saw it because we were locked out. And I'm looking up. I'm looking. I don't see it on the green. I'm like, I thought I hit it perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, and then all of a sudden I walk over to the hole, and there it is, right?
So, no way.
Yeah. So that was cool.
That's killer, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, Owen, you want to start off?
Yeah. Kind of get into the interview a bit. I mean, obviously you've been coaching forever. Obviously, I mean, you played before that. Do you want to talk a bit about just how you kind of got into hockey in the first place, like growing up, just your story getting into it and playing?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with a hockey stick in my hand from the time I was 2 years old, right? So my dad actually worked for the Winnipeg Jets of the WHA, the Brandon Wheat Kings, when I was, before I was even born. And then when we moved out to Mission when I was about 4 or 5, and my dad actually ran the Mission Pilots for years. Right. So I lived at the rink. Hockey was part of my family and culture as long as I can remember, and really hasn't changed. A little hiatus from probably when I was just playing men's league till I had kids. And then once my oldest boy got into hockey, just a couple years before that, I just started coaching. I got into coaching because my nephew was playing juvenile in Mission, and they didn't have a coach. I think I was 26, 27. And he just called me one day and said, we're not going to be able to have a team if we don't have a coach. So that's how I started coaching. And I really loved it, right? It was just another way to kind of get that competitive spirit back into you that you missed from playing. And, from there, it just kind of came up through the minor hockey ranks, obviously. And then when Scott owned the Outlaws, he called me one day and said, I need somebody to coach his team. So, I mean, they were kind of in shambles. you could say, in disarray. Like
Yeah.
their record every year was horrible, and so I thought, yeah, I'll take it on and do what we can and try and bring some respectability to the organization and win some hockey games. So we did a pretty good job of it over the years. There was one championship. We probably could have had another one if COVID didn't strike. I think we were just poised that year. Like we were.
Yeah, you guys were.
We were so loaded up for
insane.
that season. But what can you do?
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. So, I mean, obviously you coached in the league for quite a long time. I mean, did you notice, especially, I mean, with the visors being taken out of the league and now being added back, did you notice a big change in the league overall from the start to kind of your last couple of years, or was it pretty much the same?
Yeah, no, it definitely changed. The hockey changed. I don't think the hockey I wouldn't say it got worse or anything. But there's just an accountability that wasn't there anymore. Like, I think you started to see more headshots. You started to see more hitting from behind. There was no fear put into people. I mean, 5 years before that, you were accountable on the ice, right, for what you did. And I think that kind of went away a little bit with not only the visors, but also the penalties for fighting, right? Like, you just couldn't do it, right? You just couldn't do it, or you just sat in the stands and you're suspended. So there's some good and bad with both with it, right? So I don't know what's better or worse, but I did like the fact that guys had to be accountable for how they played in the past, and they couldn't just run their mouth like they can now, because it wasn't only them. Like, their teammates would tap them and say, "Listen, shut up. Like you're just pissing that guy off over there, and he's going to end up beating somebody else up." Like, just and that kind of just went away from it a little bit. So hopefully, there's a little more respect with that down the road, but with the visors coming back. But I don't know. I think kids are different, right? They change every year, so we'll see. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Do you think the skill level you think it went up and down, or up or down based from like when you started?
Well, yeah, it definitely did. It went up, and I think it's gone back down. And if we're just speaking about the PJHL itself.
Okay.
Now, reason being, look at the amount of teams, right? So the PJHL itself, you can't expand like that and keep the quality the same. Like, we are starting to get kids from outside of province a little bit more in that league, but there's also, a lot of competition out there for the junior hockey. Junior hockey's exploded in the States. A lot of kids are going down there to play. So I think the level has gone down just because it's been watered down a little bit, right? So I don't think it's where it once was, and strictly because there's more teams and there's not necessarily more players.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's already been, I mean, there's going to be a second new team in the league since you've finished coaching. And I mean, over the past 5 or 6 years, there's been, I think, 4 or 5 teams added to the league. So you can't, I mean, I would agree with you. You can't really expect to add all these teams and have the level keep the exact same.
No, from when I started, you've got the Trappers, the Jets, Poco, White Rock, and now Sunshine Coast. So in 10 years, 10, 12 years, you got 5 teams.
Yeah.
Right?
That's insane.
So that's a lot.
That's crazy.
Right? That's a lot. Now, so I think it's probably watered down just a tad. It's not drastic. It's not a huge difference. I think the top end's still the top end, right?
Yeah.
It's the third and fourth lines on teams that are, and that's where you see the big difference in the league now too, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I could have told you who was going to win the Western Conference in September last year.
Yeah.
Right. Just by looking at the rosters.
100%.
And I would have bet my house on it. So, and that was never the case. There was always really good teams, but there was always, a good chance they got upset too. Right? So
Good competition.
yeah.
Do you find more joy in coaching?
I
Because
believe it
me and
was
Owen
the
obviously
year.
had you as coaches, right? In minor hockey, and then Owen obviously coached during junior. Do you find more fun coaching the little kids, or is it better to be coaching the junior
No.
guys?
Oh, you know what? The age group I like coaching the best was bantam.
Okay.
Like bantam hockey. Like the younger than that, it's a little bit frustrating at times, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, but bantam hockey, when the boys are really coming into their own, and everybody is just so focused like on hockey. Like they're at the rink early for practice. They're just geared for it. Like it's everything to them at that point, right? Junior hockey, some guys are like that and some guys aren't.
Yeah.
Right? So that carries over. I mean, the best thing for me as a coach, like I've had a couple players over the years that I've coached. The ones that I've liked coaching the best are the ones that show up to practice and you can tell are just thrilled to be there and just working their ass off in practice. Like they just want to get better and they just want to compete and play, and they just bring everybody else's level up. Right. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but I did enjoy bantam hockey. Plus, I won 2 provincial championships coaching bantam hockey. My other iteration of bantam hockey before that, when my older boy was playing, I mean, we were playing against Matt Barzell and Jansen Harkins and all the top guys. So we didn't win a provincial championship, but that was awesome too. Like just playing at that level and coaching at that level.
Well, maybe, I'd actually want to kind of ask a bit about that. I mean, coaching Jeff growing up, obviously he got drafted to the Western Hockey League and he played, I mean, Mission itself back then was a very, very strong team. You played against all the top teams. So what was it like getting to play against guys, as you mentioned, like Barzell and Harkins on quite often?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was, just an experience, right? You can look at the guys and say, yeah, I played against those guys. It's kind of hard to, when you look at Matt now and what he's doing. I mean, it's no surprise to me what he's doing because I saw him from the time he was 6 years old. And not only was he awesome, the kid worked his ass off. Like nobody worked harder than him to get where he's been. And so you saw it coming. But yeah, no, it was great to play against all the best players and to coach against them. Like we were up against it every night, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's probably how Joe and I feel about guys like Stankoven, who you just know since they were 5 years old that they're going to make the NHL. Even with a guy like him being a second-round pick, he obviously is doing amazing. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool. And then, I mean, for Jeff, what was his whole experience like getting drafted, going on to junior and then college? I mean, he had a long hockey career. So how did he kind of go through all those phases?
Yeah, I mean, he was it was good. A lot of ups and downs, right? I mean, the grind of hockey, like you're going when you're drafted, you think you're going to play in the WHL, or if you are, you aren't. So there's the high of that day, and then there's, when you're at that level, you're also getting invited to, BC Cup, and then you're getting to the second round of it or whatever. And then, but there's heartbreak in it too, because you're trying to compete against the best of the best. And, he had some down times, right, that he had to deal with. But all in all, it's just character building, right? So my whole thing with him, and I always told him this, is all I want you to play as long as you can play, as long as you want to play, and at the highest level you can play. And whatever that is, whether that's strictly playing in the pitch and that's it, that's fine. But just as long as you're enjoying it and play as long as you can, right? So, I quit when I was 18 and I regretted it from forever. So I hate seeing kids quit early. And I haven't met too many that don't look back and wish they didn't play junior till they were 20 or keep going, right? So Jeff was playing at, he was playing junior big games when he was 15. His first game that I threw him into when I was coaching Mission, he was an AP goalie when he was 15. and we were playing the Richmond Sockeyes, who won the Western Canada Championships. That was his first start. And Danton Heinen was on that team. Like they were just a machine, right? So there was no easy games for him. It was 15 years old, and that was it, right? So that was fun. But he looks back on it, and it really was just a lot of fun, and built character to what he is today, right? So
that's awesome, man. He must have. How did that go? What was the final? Did he last more than a period? He lasted all the game.
So we were bad. The Outlaws were bad. I think they had beat us by an average of 8 goals every game they played us up to that point this year.
Okay.
And it was 2-2 going into the third.
Oh, good for him.
I think he had made like 40 some saves. I think it ended up being like 6-2 because at the end they got a couple 5-on-3s and like that was it. But he did really well, like surprisingly well.
Yeah.
Good for him, man.
But yeah, it was a cool experience.
Yeah, that was probably the first time. That was the first time you was that the first time you coached? Did you coach Jeff going up, or was that like kind of the first time you got to coach him?
Yeah, I coached him off and on. So how it worked was, remember Landon Hickmott? I don't know if you remember him. And so his name. Yeah, so his dad coached as well, Lindsay, and Lindsay played for the Mission Pilots back in the day. Lindsay was a really good player and a great coach. So Landon was a year older than Jeff, so Lindsay would always coach the first year, and then I coached the second year. So in Pee Wee, I'd coach him in the second year Pee Wee, right, or second year Adam. And Lindsay coached the first year, and then Landon moved up. And then in Bantam, I didn't actually coach him. Well, I was assistant coach. I wasn't the head coach. His second year Bantam. We brought in a coach to coach him in Bantam. But I had coached all those kids for so long that just being an assistant on it was like, it's kind of like I was coaching still anyways. So.
Yeah.
So yeah. I guess you've kind of experienced both sides of the way that hockey's kind of turned into with like the academies and the was Major Midget a thing? Major Midget was still a thing back then.
Yeah, Major Midget was.
So was that
the academies weren't?
That was like the spot to go, or was that like almost unattainable?
No, it was very attainable. So it depends. So a lot of kids went there at 15. So after the Bantam draft, they would go to Major Midget, but they didn't stay. Like they weren't staying for 3 years. Very few third-year kids played Major Midget originally.
Okay.
They were into junior hockey by then. Like so, you weren't seeing third years stay in Major Midget, and there was no, in that my first go around there was no academies. Like that started after, and the academies kind of started because a lot of the first year midget kids, even if they were drafted, weren't making Major Midget. So, yeah. And so they kind of had a niche where they started their E15 or whatever. I can't remember what it was called, but that's kind of how they started. I mean, Yale, and that's the big academies. I mean, OHA and Pursuit they were going for long before the CSHL took over, right? So when we were in Bantam, Jeff was in Bantam, we were playing OHA and Pursuit in tournaments. Like they were just in the regular tournaments against Burnaby Winter Club and North Shore and everybody else, right? They weren't allowed in the provincials and stuff like that, but they were playing in all the tournaments.
Right. Okay.
It's a little different. But yeah, now it's just kind of I think it's crazy. I think it's absolutely crazy how it's exploded with the academies. It's too much money. I mean, people are putting their kids in academies in Pee Wee and Bantam, and 5 years there, they're $100,000 into hockey before they're out of minor hockey.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just crazy. And then they come and I can't tell you how many kids I've talked to that have played 5 years in an academy and then they come to play junior in the pitch or wherever, and they're like, well, my parents, it's still expensive to play in the pitch now, and parents don't want to pay anymore. They've already paid $100,000.
They've run out of money, man.
Yeah. So, I just think it's kind of crazy. Like I said, Jeff's second year Bantam, like we were in Pacific Coast Amateur Hockey Association Tier 1. That's where all the kids were drafted out of.
Yeah.
Then the academies started, and now all those kids that were there just went to the academies.
Yeah.
Is it better for development? Probably. They're on the ice more. You think they're getting overall better coaching, maybe a little higher level, but if you go look at some of those rosters that were in Pacific Coast Tier 1 hockey before the academy started, those guys are in the NHL too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? So I don't know. Hockey's gotten incredibly expensive.
Yeah, it's unfortunate how expensive it's gotten, and there's not even just the academies, but there's so many different leagues now that I can't keep track of how there's a new one every year for kids to go to. It's like, yeah, it makes no sense to me, but
no. So, and even junior hockey has, right? So, when Jeff played in the pitch, it was $2,500 total, right? So, 6 years later, it's $9,000.
Yeah,
I mean, that's insane.
For the pitch, it was 9. Was that team fees?
No, that's all in. It's about 9,000, right? Like,
okay.
For a rookie, yeah.
Like if you say team fees, league fee, 7, 8, 9, whatever it is. I think it's different for players and it's different for teams. But and Jeff's, when he was 18 in Mission, it was $2,500 total. So it's gone up that much. That was 2016, right?
It doesn't feel like that long ago, man. Like,
That's insane.
I'm sorry, man, but it just seems to have just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
It's nuts, man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so for Jeff, obviously began his junior career with the Outlaws. You coached there a long time. What was your, full Outlaws experience like? Obviously, you won a championship one year. You went through the COVID season, everything. Just kind of talk about coaching the Outlaws.
Yeah. So, it was great. So, the nice thing about it for me was my owner. Like Scott Keeler was fantastic to coach for. And how it worked for us is, Scott just let me do what I wanted to do, right? So he let me make decisions. We discussed everything, but he let me make decisions on the roster. He let me make trades. He let me do what we wanted to do. If we needed something, we'd go get it. Like, we wanted to win, right? So that was the plan. When we did win the championship, the great thing about that team was it wasn't a bunch of guys that we traded for or brought in. Like, we had almost those guys. We had those guys for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Most of that team was, from a 10-34 team a couple years earlier that then went, 35-10.
Yeah.
Right. And won it. So that was the nice thing about it, is just to see them all kind of get better and better. Right. So, but what happened is when I went in there, I got rid of all the guys that were older, 19, 20, and I brought in a bunch of younger guys, right? Yeah. And we just grew together. So that was the plan. And so that was great. And never forget, our championship, when we won it, we were playing in the old rink.
Yeah.
Right? So we won it in 5 games, but the city took the North Arena ice out.
Come on.
Right, they wouldn't keep it in for another week because of lacrosse or whatever. So we were a little worried. We had to go into the old rink and play. But when I look back on it, that place was absolutely packed. Like, they were standing all around down by the Zamboni gate, all back there, 3 deep. It was jam packed. Good thing the fire marshal didn't come. I don't know how many people we had in there, but it had to have 800 people crammed into that little rink.
Yeah.
That's
No,
insane.
the atmosphere for that playoff run as a whole was unbelievable. But I can't imagine the South rink like that.
I still have vivid memories of coming to watch. I don't think I was there for the game of the South, but back in the North rink, the new rink, obviously it was pretty fucking cool.
And just to be there on that, I mean, that's the rink I grew up on, right? So I mean, that's where I started playing hockey. So just to win it there was awesome, right? So that was cool. And then, you know, obviously the ups and downs, the losing seasons were great too. I mean, just the kids, right? Like the players that you meet along the way, those are the big things. Even the kids I coach in juvenile now, like that have like 3 kids, you know, like I see them and they're like, some of them are on their 3rd marriages. It's like, how long is this thing going on, right? It's just, it's really cool. That's the best part about the hockey world, right? Is, you know, you see, like just going grocery shopping and bumping into somebody that you coached 20 years ago, right? To see how they're doing. So,
who's the best player you coached?
The best player I coached?
Not including James and Jeff.
Yeah, no. My favorite player to coach, and he's not necessarily the best, he was very good, was Brock Paget.
Really? Okay.
So, and Brock was a Chilliwack minor hockey kid that showed up to prospect camp. Like, we didn't recruit him. He saw the thing on the website and sent in his application and came out, and he had broke his leg the year before. I think he played midget A2 in Chilliwack.
Wow.
And first day of prospect camp, I said, yeah, I want this kid. So we made a spot for him. His first year, he didn't play much. Like, he was in and out of the lineup. He was 17 years old. I remember meeting with him before the next season and him asking me, well, am I going to get to play this year? And I said, yeah, you're going to get to play. He was an all-star his next year at 18. And at 19, he was the best defenseman in our league and had close to 50 points. And then got a partial scholarship to University of Maine at 19. He didn't play his 20 year. But the reason I love that kid was, like I said about practice, he came to practice every day just ready to go.
Yeah.
Like, and compete. And if we, you know, I mean, my practices were the same in Phantom, Midget, and Junior, right?
Yeah.
So you guys know the drills. Like, if we're doing one-on-ones with defensemen, and he would drive you. He'd put you into the wall. Like, and if you happen to beat him, he was probably going to slash you and hack you. Like, he was so competitive that it raised everybody up. Yeah. And, you know, it was just a joy to coach him. And I had a lot from that team, a lot of guys that I loved coaching. But he would be one for sure. I mean, pure skill-wise, I had a few guys that David McGowan was.
I was going to say, I remember watching him play.
He was such a complete player. And then Bryce Piziak, obviously.
What a stud, yeah. Could
score. Like, his last year with us, he'd go up and play with the Surrey Eagles and get 2 or 3 points a game. Right? So he was awesome. And then the other guy that I loved was Brody Dick.
Oh, what a warrior.
He was an absolute warrior, right?
Yeah.
We had so many guys on that team in particular. I'm missing a few that were great too, but you know, those guys were good. And then I have to say that you guys were both favorites of mine coming up in minor hockey as well. And obviously your second year Bantam, I was coaching the defense. And one guy in particular made it really easy for me, as I just put him out there every second shift. I think you
made it easy on me too, right? Man. I loved it.
Guy that's at the University of North Dakota.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up and ask about him. I mean, obviously, we're talking about Abram Wiebe. I mean, obviously he was an absolute stud to coach growing up, but I don't really think, I mean, at least I didn't at the time, look at him as a future NHL draft pick. Do you want to kind of talk about what it was like coaching him, seeing him grow up, and now seeing him develop, get drafted by Vegas, and play for North Dakota?
Yeah, I'm not surprised in the slightest. So he was so overlooked in Bantam hockey because of where he played.
No kidding. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and then even at BC Cup, I was part of the scouting committee for that. And I remember sitting in that room and saying, you have to take this kid. Like, I don't know what you guys are watching.
Yeah.
But how can't you take this kid? But it was because he played in Mission. If he was playing in an academy, he would have been drafted in the first 3 rounds. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And luckily for him, he got a shot with the T-Birds, and the coach loved him there right away and put him in a prominent position. But I mean, I remember going to bat for him at BC Cup and saying, like, he's got to be selected. And when I left, I was told he was, and then when I saw the list, he wasn't on it. So, I was, but it's worked out. It's worked out for him. Luckily, he got his opportunity, made the most of it. But talk about a kid that loves the game.
No kidding. Yeah.
I mean, walking to the rink early. Like, I get to the rink early for practice. He was always already there for an hour.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And he had walked down with his bag on his shoulder, or whatever. I mean, he was a great kid to coach too. And then obviously when you want to win, I remember talking to him in the provincials because I was obviously just the assistant coach, but I remember telling him, when you're on the bench, because I played him so much at the end. I mean, I told him, like, when you're ready to go, stand up. So I know, like, I'm not putting you out tired. So as soon as you stand up, I'll get you back out on the ice, right? So, but yeah, no, he was awesome. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about,
I remember those games.
Guys were fun to coach, being like so eager to learn and get better. I can't think of any better example I ever played with when it comes to just character, leadership, drive, effort, everything. Like, he just, based on that, I am not surprised at all that he's been able to overcome all these odds and, overcome the past and get to where he is. It's such a crazy thing to look at where he was in second year Bantam and where he is now.
Yeah, it really is. And, and he's such a nice kid. Like, you just, like, there is no ego at all on that kid. None. Like, he is an absolute joy just to be around, hockey or not. Like, and you don't see that with a lot of really good players, right? Like, a lot of them think they're entitled or whatever. Not him. He's a great kid. Yeah, I'll be pulling for him. I hope he makes it one day. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, me too. Yeah. Us too, for sure.
I'll definitely be buying Canucks tickets if he's ever playing against them.
If he's ever, that's true.
I'll be buying a jersey first.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't have a ton else. Joe, do you have much else?
I don't think so, man. I just think just thank you for, coaching us and kind of a lot of my good minor hockey memories are with you at the bench, winning the provincials there, and you weren't the head coach, but you were still right in there when it comes to the coaching staff and always putting your word in. It was just awesome to see you every day and at the rink and stuff. And I just just thanks for coaching us. And obviously Owen's done now, and I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel almost. So it's been an honor.
Yeah. Well, thank you, boys. Thank you. I mean, that when we did win the provincials, that was my 14th time to the provincials, and I hadn't won one yet. So
just had to get it done, man.
Thank you.
Got it done.
And I think, Joe, you got a shutout in that game, did you not? Was it not? What?
Was it in Nelson?
Yeah, well, 1-0 or 2-1?
2-1, man. Ethan Self.
Yeah,
that's right.
Ethan Self on the empty net.
the goalie turned the puck over at the behind the net, and we scored on an empty netter.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
gotta
it
be
was-
that's,
I mean, yeah.
that's top 5 hockey memory for me for sure.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then, yeah,
it
Brad,
was good.
thank you so much. Obviously, you coached me for most of my life. You were a huge influence on me, my career. You were never anything but amazing to me. So thank you so much for everything you did for me, throughout my career. And thank you so much for coming on. It was awesome getting to interview you.
Excellent, boys. Good luck with this. I'll be keeping tabs on you. I'm going to go back and listen to Chenye. See what he has to say. Yeah, no, this is great. Good luck. And
Yep.
Awesome.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks a ton, Brad. We appreciate it.